Hey all, this is 012 and
The gentleman jackass who does abide to Mr. Lynch.
yes, and well, as he just did it there. If you don't know what we're doing this video for, it's sort of impromptu. We talk about it throughout the week, but if you guys know, it was either Tuesday or Wednesday of this last week, since we're now in a new week, being Sunday night as we're doing this. David Lynch has passed away. I put it in the description, 1946 to 2025, 78 years old. If you guys were on X and were fans of him and following him, I had one of my friends. I will name him Galdier. I've been saying his real name. You may remember if you know who Galdier is. I'll just do it to protect his identity because didn't ask him permission if he wanted me to use his name, but I'll just do it on the safe side. But my friend Galdier texted me and said that his family sent out a thing. I saw it before that. It was on my news feed, given that I'm a huge guy of movies, and I told Jarek here, and then told my friend Zombie JLT1 and a couple others. But he went into detail that his family, I guess, found him. I don't know how. Really, don't want to know how. Hopefully, he wasn't in a weird position or anything. But beside the point, you know, they found him dead, obviously, and sadly, he was 78 and he was battling emphysema. But they left a lovely tribute from the text that my friend Gelder sent me, saying that, you know, we're saddened and the world is lesser by his loss, and as well as the world of entertainment, because he was synonymous. I know not everybody's doing a whole ton, but a lot more people have gotten it out that he's passed. But yes, he's left a legacy and great stuff. And his family said, no matter where he is, they believe him to be in heaven, or as they said, a shinier place where it's happy and good. And they used his life philosophy that he said in one of his either the master class, and I think he said it in several special features, where don't look through the hole of the donut, look at the donut itself. And they said just keep on smiling and be happy, which obviously he was, because this is a real quick thing before we go into what we liked about the man. Apparently, when you watch the special features to any of his movies or see any interviews of him online, he was a very private man from the sounds of it. Very private man, it seems. But yet, everyone who knew him from Twin Peaks to all of his movies, everybody said he was a likable guy, never went into characterization, never went into that much story until they started rolling. But even then, people still didn't know what his stuff was totally about. But he would want to get to know people. It wasn't about how are you as an actor, how are you as a person. And that's what everybody loved about him, is he really wanted to get to know people as they were. So again, one of the kind guy, it seemed to be a very nice guy. Honestly, I'm glad we didn't know a lot about his other affiliations. You could get the idea this guy was spiritual. He was definitely a guy about consciousness. He mentions a lot about consciousness and spirituality in the special features, in the interviews you see of the man. So he definitely seemed to be very out there. I don't know if this was his belief, but in my opinion, he seemed to be well immersed in all types of religions, and quite a few, again, in my opinion, in Christian mythology, myth, and religion as well. And, probably Hinduism, Taoism, probably even a little Mid-Eastern stuff thrown in there too. But he was a man of culture, a man of spiritualism, and that seemed to be the case. And, honestly, in my opinion, I put in the description as well. Guy was very influential on me, meant a lot to me. My parents just we'll start by showing this one. We're not going to go into detail, but I'll just show you the first one, and we'll go through his whole filmography as it ends. And again, I wouldn't be shocked if they take this down because we're just showing these. But Twin Peaks, everything Twin Peaks. And then I started collecting after my folks just showed me this on a whim. There's Fire Walk with Me. Great prequel movie. And here is the third season, the limited series event, or the return, as some people call it, or as I like to call it, Twin Peaks Season 3.
Well, and speaking of Fire Walk with Me, if you have the Steam game I think it's Roar of Vengeance or Roar of Revenge, very cheap game, by the way. It was also played by the super best friends play together, Matt and Pat. If there's a certain level, if you go to the upper, I believe it's left of the screen, you will find a statue, and if you read the inscription, it will say, "Fire Walk with Me." Yeah, I love that even they mentioned, hey, wait a minute, isn't that a Twin Peaks reference?
Yeah. Well, and again,
Mm-hmm.
that's how much it was. And yeah.
And
Oh,
and also for you gamers out there, some of you may be aware of this, but the one of my favorite places in gaming, welcome to the Velvet Room, my dear young guest. That was inspired by the Black Lodge. In fact, quite a bit of Persona was in fact inspired by the Black Lodge, which itself was inspired by Jungian psychoanalytics. But hey, I mean, anybody who's a big fan of like Apocalypse Now probably already knew that. And also, if you're wondering about the wonderful new hat I got, and no, I will not say, the thing. I've always liked Hawk's cowboy look. I've always wanted a nice little Stetson because Stetsons like bow ties are awesome. And I just figured, hey, why not? I need a new hat. And, also like this is my Cooper. I am his Hawk.
when did Hawk have a hat?
Wasn't it Hawk? Oh, wait,
No,
it was Truman.
you're meaning Truman. Yeah, Sheriff Harry S. Truman and or his brother Frank from season 3. They both wore those type of hats.
Well, again, the other dyslexicist aside from Terrence Pop. And also, along with his filmography, and this is one of my favorite gifts I got from Boku, The Elephant Man.
Yes.
Which honestly kind of annoys me that this is one of the few movies we really got about the Elephant Man. And also, in my opinion, this is one of the best biographies that's ever been made.
Yep. Because they do make the movie based off the notes of the Elephant Man and the book that Dr. Frederick Treves, who's played by Anthony Hopkins in that movie there. And again, we won't go deep into it, but we will show you better things. And I'm glad you brought that one up.
And
because
for those of for eagle-eyed viewers, you'll notice that Mr. Lynch's signature is on this.
Oh yeah, if you guys get any of his Criterion collection, he personally supervised DHD everything from what he wanted added in, what was left out, making sure deleted scenes were found so you could see what they put on the cutting room floor. If anything, the man was there. He doesn't go crazy into special features, but what he gives you is enough to be like, you appreciate him, what he did for his films. And getting to what I was talking about too, where all this started for me was Twin Peaks. I still have them. Actually, give me a minute. Let me go. Well, yeah, let me go digging for a bit, guys. I'm gonna try to see if I can find them. I think I put them in here. You're seeing more of my messy room. I apologize for that. Let's see, where did I? Oh, yes. Aha. I still have part of them, and I'll show you this really quick.
Oh.
This was one of the original DVD releases without the pilot, mind you. The pilot did not come with this DVD series, so I was wondering when we started watching this, where was this dead girl she was talking about? How did she die? And the pilot apparently is its own thing separately, as my folks found out. But this was the first DVD release of Twin Peaks, and they found that this is how my family watched it. And after I had watched this, granted, I was tired from work, I was tired from doing stuff, so I fell asleep in some episodes, missed a few points. Me and my folks went back and watched them, was still confused. But when we got to the show more and more, I was just enamored with it. So that's where that started. And I absolutely loved it to a T, to the point where when I did go back and rewatch that, or when well, I don't have it. It's not my other DVD, but you guys have seen it. I've been using it for reviews. That yellow one of this, of Twin Peaks, that has the, Black Lodge pattern that goes down. That, when I rewatched it, I'm like, this show is brilliant. I loved the quirkiness. I loved the characters. I loved who he represented. And I said, a lot of people talk about this guy's filmography, but I don't know much about him. So me and Galdier, we started looking into things. Believe it or not, he helped me get Eraserhead and a few others, and it just blossomed from there. But to get to the next port, Because again, I don't want this to become a huge, long-winded thing of Lynch. This is just meant to be a regular tribute. I guess we'll get to the main meat of the tribute since we lost a great. I introduced a lot of my friends to this, and I usually do give Jarek the floor in these instances, which I will continue here. But Jarek, what does David Lynch overall mean to you, and what did he do for you when you were introduced?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things because, I mean, let's be honest, this guy is pretty much the closest we're ever going to get to an American Junji Ito for, those of you who are horror manga fans.
Yeah, I have got to agree with that.
And in my opinion, this guy is going to be up in that nice special little double R diner in heaven with Rod Serling, Junji Ito, and what's his name? Satoshi Kon.
Oh, wait, they're both Junji Ito and Satoshi Kon are both dead too?
Well, no, but I mean when they get them.
Okay. I didn't know they were dead. I'm like, what?
Yeah, in my own headcanon, I would just like to think, when he gets to heaven, it's going to be a double R diner. Rod Serling's going to open the door for him and be like, "You open the door to the double R diner with the key of your awesome imagination. And this, my friend, is the heaven that awaits you in the Twilight Zone." Because honestly, if they're not friends, then they should be.
Yeah. Well, and as much as we said the thing with Stanley Kubrick hopefully being there, some of the things we've learned about him, hopefully he did not go to hell. I'm hoping, but
maybe a little parole first.
We'll get into that when we get into Stanley Kubrick movies. A couple of my friends have told me some unflattering things. Maybe we mentioned it before, but this isn't about Stanley Kubrick. But that's who I would like to see together in there too, was Kubrick as well. But Kubrick was not completely flattering.
Because if you all know the old diner that has like the old portrait that has like the diner with like James Dean and all those famous actors just sitting there, and like Marilyn Monroe's the waitress. I imagine that's going to be his heaven.
Yeah.
But to me, like, his most interesting legacy is how many people he inspired, which to me is like the biggest mark of a great artist. Like I already mentioned how Roar of Vengeance has a statue dedicated to him. What I didn't mention, but I may have mentioned in other videos, specifically the Twin Peaks ones we've done, is that there is a game done by a Japanese developer who goes by the title of Swery called Deadly Premonition, which, by the way, both the original and the sequel are now available on Switch. And it's basically like his version of Dale Cooper, just the most quirky, insane guy getting sent to investigate, stop me if you've heard this, a murder in a small rural area that seems to be paranormally influenced. Oh, and it also kind of has like Resident Evil 4 style gameplay.
Yeah.
But the guy is just like Cooper, he's a secret agent. He kind of talks to himself, has a little bit of a transcorder he's taking notes with, seems to think that his coffee gives him secret messages from beyond the veil of humanity. Again, stop me if you've heard any of this. But yeah, games 1 and 2 are now available on Switch. Technically, the first game is on Steam, but it needs Windows 8 to run, and Steam does not support Windows 8 anymore. Minor heads up there, people. There's a bunch of games. Again, Black Lodge inspired The Velvet Room, as I have already mentioned, and let's just be honest, you can see Lynchian style cinematography inspirations in everything these days.
Yeah, well,
Hollywood doesn't like mentioning Mr. Lynch, but it does like borrowing his homework a lot.
Yeah, well, to basically give you that before, if you had anything else to add, Jarek, J.J. Abrams, anybody way inspired. I was going to say this for later, but I think this was one of the most successful because. Don't get me wrong. I mentioned Abrams, but a lot of people tribute Stranger Things to David Lynch as well, which is true. I will give Stranger Things that, and it does have a lot of that vibe too. But I will say, if there's one show that came close to following his vibe, many of you probably forgotten about it. I know there's probably many fans who remember. I think X-Files was sort of the very closest show that kept to that same vein, except X-Files was being a little bit more serious. It didn't have so much of the quirky. There were quirky moments, but David Lynch had more of the quirky. But
there is one show that, in my opinion, tried to combine Stranger Things and Twin Peaks, and some of you fans out there may know what I'm already talking about. I speak, of course, of Gravity Falls and the greatest arch nemesis of all time, Bill Cipher.
Well, one sec before you get to that, because I know you were going to bring it up. I just wanted to clarify. Didn't Stranger Things happen after Gravity Falls? Because I thought Gravity Falls was already done by the time Stranger
Well,
Things.
kind of, yeah, but I mean, like to me, I just like to think Stranger Things kind of looked at Gravity Falls and thought, we could do that.
So you mean taking more from
Yeah.
other? Oh, okay, I see what you're
Because I
saying.
mean, look, I know a lot of people like that show. I'm not the biggest fan.
Well, to be fair, Jared, it is good, and I liked the first 2 seasons, and then by the third season, I sort of fell off. I heard 4 and 5 got better, so I probably do need to get back into it and see 4 and 5. I heard it did get better, but at the same time, it's like I hope it goes somewhere good and doesn't, because like again, we all have different views and favorites, and I like a lot of things that a lot of people don't like, and vice versa. But hey.
Well, let's just say I don't think I'm going to be convincing anybody to watch Higurashi with me anytime in the near future. So I get you. But yeah, I mean, Gravity Falls was, you could tell, that there were a lot of good Lynchian inspirations. And as it turns out, Mr. Alex Herschel himself, actually a bit of a David Lynch fan, and apparently he wanted to do a tribute. And for those of you who aren't 100% familiar, Gravity Falls' creator, Alex Herschel, is best friends with a guy who does Rick and Morty. And apparently the two shows may or may not share a what's it?
Timeline?
Combined universe. Because, again, if you look hard enough in certain episodes, you'll notice Bill Cipher seems to show up in certain scenes of Rick and Morty. So, who knows?
And like you talked about fitting the realm of Twin Peaks, like you say, even before Rick and Morty first came out, you always say how there's episodes in Gravity Falls where Bill Cipher doesn't mention him by name because they didn't have his name yet or probably anything, but he mentions a caricature from what people have told me and from what Jared has told me and from the scenes I've seen on YouTube of Gravity Falls where confirming this, where he does talk about a person who's very much like Rick Sanchez without mentioning his name.
Well, and, also it deals with like another world, places, ways to transverse from our world to those worlds, and basically a lot of stuff that might sound very familiar to our friendly travelers of the Black Lodge. Although, let's be honest, David Lynch is going to the White Lodge.
Yeah. And, oh crap. Well,
and strangely enough, I think it was the day Mr. Lynch passed away. I didn't even realize this. I had gone to our local Fry's, Kroger's to those of you on the East Coast, and I had decided to get get me and Mr. Boku a nice big box of donuts. Well, as it turns out, that was the day we got confirmation that he passed away, and I looked at Boku. I was like, I don't even really understand why I got to bug up my ass to go to Fry's and get these donuts. Now I know Mr. Lynch was telling us something.
Yeah. Well, to that same point, too, I think the day you got the donuts is the day I just made another fresh batch of coffee. And then, believe it or not, I think it happened the day right before he passed. The day right before he passed, they re-released This Isn't It, because this only has Fire Walk With Me and the original show in it, but he released Twin Peaks from Z to A in a reissue recently where they were reissuing it, and he, I think, died the day after it was finally again reissued. So that's a little bit of a creepy coincidence. Plus,
and I saw that for sale on Amazon. Yeah, I remember I told you the day he died. It's like, I remember seeing that for sale on Amazon yesterday.
Yeah. Well, and then in another weird thing, they said that the creator of Netflix said that David Lynch was working on a limited series show for Netflix, and I sat there going, "Oh crap!" Because people were saying they wanted a season 4 of Twin Peaks. Now, if the creator of Netflix didn't mention what David Lynch was working on, but if it possibly could have been Twin Peaks season 4, which we know a lot of people wanted, but again, I'm skeptical of that because I know fans wanted it, but he seemed to be very satisfied with how season 3 turned out. And again, we didn't hear anything from Mark Frost. We didn't hear who again, to basically not throw shade on him. This was created by David Lynch. It was his baby, but he asked for help on the idea from creator Mark Frost. So this was created by both David Lynch and Mark Frost. Mark Frost didn't say anything, so who knows what that show could have been? But we all know David Lynch. Whatever it would have been great. So I guess anything else to add, Jer?
I mean, it's really one of those sad things where he had a very limited library of work, probably because, again, like Rod Serling, he very much was a bit of a perfectionist and wanted creative control, which Hollywood despises.
Yeah.
And it's just my conjecture, but it really seems like they take the piss out of people who insist on artistic integrity and creative control. But the stuff he left us, like, I'm not going to lie, this movie is one of the movies that absolutely touched me in ways that only Parenthood with Steve Martin has ever accomplished. This movie,
and I remember you and I were both bawling. Even when I showed the movie with Jesse, I was still bothered. Or whoops, zombie. Sorry, zombie. I was bawling like a baby.
I don't care how much of a manly man you think you are. Bust out the Haagen-Dazs and the Kleenex. You're gonna need it.
Oh yeah. Well, and then to that point, since you just mentioned that, if you had, I know you and I have not seen everything of his yet, but from what we have seen of his, what would be the one film and the show, Twin Peaks, what touched you the most? Or what so far out of what we've seen of his is your favorite of his? Because I know Twin Peaks can be a given, but if it is Twin Peaks, cool. But what would you think?
Well, in terms of being the favorite, of course, it's got to be Twin Peaks. That is just an absolute touchstone. It's a classic. It's the GOAT. It's, it is what it is. But if the one that touched me the hardest, that is, without a doubt, Elephant Man. Although, I will admit, Eraserhead is actually a very underrated classic.
And disturbing. Very disturbing.
Well, that's kind of what makes it one of his most important works, because me and Mr. Warburton actually had a bit of a conversation about this with his mother, who definitely does not agree with this position, but it is me and Mr. Warburton's position that the most important movies are the ones that are the hardest to watch, the ones that deal with the most difficult material, like, for instance, Chinatown with Jack Nicholson. Yes, it's a very ugly, very nasty movie considering some of the stuff it deals with, but that's why you need to watch it. It forces you to confront these aspects of human behavior and the things we do, the things we allow ourselves to become. And again, Twin Peaks is a masterclass in this. Eraserhead is probably the single best, one of the single best at it.
Well, to get into it, to add what you're saying, Eraserhead to me, I think, is almost like what you see in the Black Lodge after you go there. Because in Henry's apartment, you see where the carpet is like that zigzag pattern. Yeah. Now, it could be coincidence, but when you think about it, it's almost like people have tried to match up a lot of these things that are connected. But David Lynch's mind, it very well could have. He doesn't go into explanation about any of his films, so who knows? And to me, that's excellent in my opinion.
Well, and one of the things I absolutely love, like, I know there's the continued debate, which Persona is the best, 3 is the best, 5's the best, 4, and I will fight you for it. Well, for me, it's 3, but it's for a very odd reason. And that is because, smart fans who will pay attention will notice, and spoiler warning, by the way, that when you first enter into the dorms, it's during the midnight hour, and that's where the creepy little kid who will later call himself Pharos, who you later realize is actually Thanatos, the appraiser of death that you will inevitably have to either, kill and basically have your memories wiped until death comes a year later, but you get to live in peace, or you let him live and then he becomes the true version of Thanatos, the appraiser of death, and you have to fight him at the top of the tower of Tartarus to try to stop death itself. Either way, he is death, and he asks you to sign a contract, which is crucial because you can't go to the Velvet Room unless you sign the contract. And what does Igor tell you? Only those who are bound by a contract may enter this place and be a guest of this Velvet Room. All we ask is that you abide by the terms of the contract and take full responsibility for the choices you may make. And fans may realize or already know this, but what happens at the end even if you win? You die. Why is this? Well, if you think about it, it sounds an awful lot like a certain FBI agent tasked with solving a murder in a small town who enters a mysterious lodge of supernatural powers.
Ooh.
And this is what I love about it, because the game is basically telling you, even if you don't fully realize it, you're already dead. Your fate is sealed. All that matters is how you spend what time you have before the end, because, again, you have to sign that contract and you must abide by the terms of the contract and take full responsibility. And I love how the game tells you that. And you know how the payoff is even better? For those who have played episode Aegis, your friends stricken with grief over your death have accidentally created a shadow copy of you because of their grief and emotions. And they have to come to terms with that sorrow, confronting it, and learning how to move on in spite of the pain of your death. It's actually one of the hardest but most beautiful DLCs. And yes, we got that for free on the PS2. So thank you very much for charging us for that, Atlas, you knobs.
Well, indeed. And if that's Jarek's, mine is a very similar nature where David Lynch, just like I said, it all started with Twin Peaks, and I just wanted to keep going with more and more because I liked what it represented, the weirdness, the quirkiness. It was a new way of directing I had never seen, and it just like influenced me. It locked me in. And David Lynch even says, when you watch my stuff, I want you guys to figure out what the mystery is to see if you can see what I'm getting at with this. It'll keep making you go back, keep watching it, keep trying to figure it out without him giving anything away. Now, some people may hate that, but I love it because if you love his work, you'll go back, rewatch it as many times as you want just to see and figure out what David Lynch was getting at. And basically, before I get to that, I said I was going to do this, and I hope YouTube does not demonetize us for it. If they shouldn't, but you got, well, like I said, to just show you guys again, I'll start with the creme de la creme because it is, and this will not be on my favorites list because we all know if you like David Lynch, obviously we're a fan of this, but Twin Peaks, season 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm. Very good, very good.
I know it was in that collection, but Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, where David Lynch's unedited vision of Twin Peaks finally came to be, because believe me, this is where stuff starts getting violent more than we could show in 1990. Oh.
Or to explain in anime terms, regular Twin Peaks is first season of To Love Ru. Fire Walk with Me is To Love Ru Darkness, the Blu-ray edition.
And then, obviously, as you guys know, basically the third season, a masterpiece. Now, people may not agree. We won't get into it now, but with how this ends, it did leave quite a few people disappointed.
Yeah.
It did leave me disappointed at first, but after going back and rewatching it and talking with Jarek and several other fans, you may change your opinion because the dreamer may not be who you think. Then why'd you chew on that one if you guys have heard that one and know what that's about?
Well, and again, just like with the ending of Persona 3, even if you accomplish your task, that does not necessarily mean you get the happy ending.
Okay, yes, and absolutely. And now starting with his films. Eraserhead, very first film, 1977. Creepy, weird, and yeah, just bizarre. And if you guys know from Twin Peaks fame, Henry here, this is Pete. Also, rest in peace, Jack Nance. You are missed. Let's see. Elephant Man, as Jarek already showed. Great film. Will cry your eyes out. A great true telling. Great performances by Anthony Hopkins and John Hurt, who played the Elephant Man in this. And yeah, great film. 1980, his second movie. And produced by Mel Brooks' film, believe it or not.
And possibly my second favorite Anthony Hopkins performance, just after Silence of the Lambs.
And he is so young in that movie, too. He's got black hair and it's long.
I know.
And also, for those who like Denis Villeneuve, and his remake of Dune. This isn't the 77 unfinished version, guys. I get that. That one is a piece of shit. It really is. But this may not be everybody's cup of tea. But you would not have Dune if David Lynch did not try it first. Plus, Kyle MacLachlan and all his great Paul Atreides greatness. You know, Timothy Chalamet, respect. But you're not Kyle MacLachlan.
Well, plus our favorite moment, Captain Picard going back into the building to save the pug.
Well, yeah. For Lord Duke Leto! Ah!
Plus, I can't believe I forgot to bring it, but I have the same movie. I just have the widescreen stereo version.
And it was the only movie they did. I'll just say it really quick because I know we'll get into it when we do the movie. David Lynch having Toto do the score was epic. It really was. The best score is not on the soundtrack, sadly, because I have listened to the soundtrack. It's not on there, which disappoints me. But you know, it's great. And
I saw the rains down in Arrakis.
And you know what? Kenneth McMillan was great as Baron Duke Harkonnen. And even though his performance is campy, you gotta love Sting as Fade. I know a lot of people say, but it was so stupid. I'm like, I love it because of that, in spite of it. Now, where he achieved fame again after Elephant Man, even though this film was not well received in theaters, Blue Velvet, a masterclass in a detective story, and knowing that in small towns, which this also inspired Twin Peaks for him, you know, you never know what's below the surface. Great performances from Kyle MacLachlan, great direction from David Lynch. One of Dennis Hopper's great performances, Isabella Rossellini's best performances, also has Jack Nance and Brad Dourif in it as well, which, forgot to mention, Brad Dourif looks ridiculous in this movie too. He's in here too, but it's awesome how Brad Dourif got to work with David Lynch. If you guys don't know who Brad Dourif is, Chucky. And then,
how crazy is that?
Now for the ones that I haven't seen, but I've heard they are excellent. Wild at Heart. I cannot wait to see this. Laura Dern and Nicolas Cage. Plus, I heard Cheryl Lee shows up as Nicolas Cage's fairy godmother. So Laura Palmer playing a fairy in this one. Isn't that weird? But I've heard this movie is really good. And it was made in, 1990.
Well, hey, she went from being an angel to being a fairy.
Oh, and I forgot to mention the years. Dune was done 1984, Blue Velvet 1986. Now, all the way to 1997, because if you guys want to know, Fire Walk with Me was made in 1992, 2 years after Twin Peaks seasons 1 and 2 were finished. So that was 1992. Flash forward to 1977, or 1997, 20 years after he made his first movie, Lost Highway. I have heard nothing about this movie except for a few scenes, but I've heard people say another interesting, creepy, out-of-world movie that really makes you think. Apparently with, Bill Pullman, Patricia Arquette, Balthazar Getty, Robert Blake, Natasha Gregson Wagner, Gary Busey, and Robert Loggia.
Ooh, I'm going to have to watch that with you.
Oh, no, we're down for doing that. Dude, I'm down for doing these all over again, too. I love David Lynch.
Oh, heck yeah.
Now, granted, another unknown movie which he helped make with Disney, of all people. Disney. David Lynch actually worked with Disney. The Straight Story. Apparently a drama movie that was really good, and this flew under the radar, and apparently this is a very sad movie in its way, and from what I understand is this guy rides this tractor to go see his dying friend that lives, I guess, 4 or 5 states over. So it becomes sort of like what Forrest Gump did at Forrest Gump, but it's with this guy, on a tractor. And well, actually, I'll read the back here. The guy's name is Alvin, and he's making a 317-mile journey to see his friend on this lawnmower. And let's see, this one. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Richard Farnsworth, Sissy Spacek, and Harry Dean Stanton. And apparently Sissy Spacek plays his daughter in that one. Oh, and my pile fell over. Now, granted, I have not seen this one altogether either. I've seen clips, but not altogether. Apparently, this is a pseudo-sequel to Twin Peaks. And in season 3, when you see the theater at the end of the movie, that's where the fireman's in. If you guys know season 3, but Mulholland Drive. A great film that a lot of people have talked about. Again, flew under the radar, but this is another big cult classic. And people say a sort of sequel. And I think it's Naomi Watts' character. If you guys see her blurred form there, that's Naomi Watts. She apparently may or may not be a different version of Laura Palmer, according to fans.
Well, and you know what's interesting? Look at that cover. Her eyes are completely hollow and black.
Yeah, well, so are hers. So are hers, her friends. Because let's see, let's see. Basically, to give it to you guys, Justin Theroux, Naomi Watts, Laura Elena Henning, Ann Miller, Dan Hedaya, Mark Pellegrino, Brent Briscoe, and Robert Forster. And apparently, this character wants to go into Hollywood to make it big time, and they discover a lot of dark, interesting, creepy, spiritual, possibly even satanic corners of Hollywood, let's say. And I will not bring up what's going on right now. It is terrible. But again, if you guys know the history of Hollywood, there's been a lot of unsolved things where people step into things and God only knows what happened. And I mean that seriously.
Well, I mean, hey, Marilyn Monroe reference or the Black Dahlia reference?
Well,
take your pick.
To the same thing. Oh, and Mulholland Drive was 2001. I forgot to say it too. Straight Story was 1999. Mulholland Drive, 2001. This one was his last film in 2006 before he started filming Twin Peaks season 3 in 2015. Inland Empire. This one apparently is again about Hollywood, but I think it's like a fictionalized story. Well, so is Mulholland Drive. What am I saying? Mulholland Drive is fiction. But this is another fiction of Hollywood and its golden age where the dark corners and everything else come out and a lot of people's hypocrisies and stuff come out. And I'll give the little tagline. And again, don't dox me here, YouTube, but strange what love does. And apparently it starts with how a woman is in trouble in Hollywood and just how everything comes into that. Yeah, and it mentions like nightmares and the unconscious mind, all these great things, guys. So again, I can't wait to see these. Now again, I've said I've not seen all of these from Wild at Heart all the way to here, so I can't wait to see them. And let's see this one here. Oh yeah, Laura Dern, Jeremy Irons, Justin Theroux, and Justin Theroux again. And I heard William H. Macy and a few other great actors show up in this one too. So that's it. Now, granted, out of the ones I've seen, again, Twin Peaks is a given, and Jarek already beat me to it. And he also mentioned the Elephant Man. Not going to mention it again.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. I talked about this with a friend last night too. So believe it or not, Elephant Man is good. I love it. But if there's one, and a lot of people also said Dune. Dune is also very close. Dune is very good. I love David Lynch's Dune. However, let me find it again in this massive mess. Not that I want to call it a mess. This I saw in a crime film class. So Blue Velvet was actually my very first thing of David Lynch. And believe me, this film has got all of his weird tropes in it, demonic tropes, just darkness tropes. David Lynch is all over this baby. And I don't know what it is. And believe me, it's not just Dennis Hopper as Frank Booth. As good as that role is, and as creepy and evil as he is, and without ruining it, he deserves what he gets. I'm not feeling any sympathy for that man whatsoever. He deserves what he gets. But Frank Booth, not Dennis Hopper, by the way, so get that straight too. But this one just probably started it all for my crime film class. This is probably what started it all. And then Twin Peaks finished it off because I'm like, I like this guy. As weird as this is, I love this movie.
You know what I just realized?
What's that?
It's kind of ironic. I think Blue Velvet might have acted as a bit of an inspiration for Persona 4 because, again, stop me if you've heard this one. Crime in a small town, bit of a rural area for Japan. You know, you got people investigating it, supernatural elements, again, another world, and also there's a bit of a pervert who may or may not be the perpetrator. I won't spoil it because it's a really good twist. But let's just say if you pay attention, you're going to notice some similarities to Daddy Wants to Fuck.
Yeah, Frank Boot. Well, there you go. But
So honestly, it's kind of weird, but now we're up to two Lynch movies that may have inspired two of my favorite games of all time.
well, there you go. And I've got to say, guys, given that we've given our takes and what we liked, and final saying, I will say he is gonna be missed because
Mm,
I was gonna mention him and Jared mentioned it, but I'll mention it again. If you guys were counting along with me, minus Firewalk with Me, which I consider a part of the whole Twin Peaks opus. Yes, he did that as a movie. That is counted as one of his movies, but I consider it a part of the Twin Peaks thing, not a separate thing. Because believe me, if you keep it separate, you're not going to know what the hell's going on or how any of this makes sense. So that's why I consider Twin Peaks its own standalone thing that David Lynch did, including the prequel movie. But 9 films, guys. There's other directors who've done that too. And I've also realized too, and this is not to throw shade at Steven Spielberg, who's had a great career. You know, James Cameron, who's actually made quite a few good handful of films, except he would be more like David Lynch, except don't mean to throw shade at other directors, but I think James Cameron has sort of fallen off a cliff. But
yeah.
and then a few others. But I've learned sort of like with Quentin Tarantino. Sometimes the less movies you make, and when you really want to make something you want to do, the better these things are. And David Lynch seemed to pretty much do throughout his entire career, minus with a few bumps in the road, every film he wanted to do and he meant to do. Plus, apparently, he did a lot of good music video work. But this guy is assumed, in my mind, legendary status. I told my friend Gallagher earlier this week, David Lynch, as Jarek has brought up, and I brought up a few as well, will be often imitated. He, I don't think, will ever be duplicated. And I will throw shade on you, J.J. Abrams, for that, because good try with Lost, but not even close, in my opinion. Not even close. So,
Well, as my
you'll have your fan base. David Lynch has it.
well, as our good friend Mr. Warburton told me and likes to tell a lot of people, true genius does not have to call itself genius. You will recognize it when you see it. And it's the reason why J.J. Abrams tries to tell everybody that he's a genius, because, hey, maybe if I lie hard enough, people might believe it. Good luck with that. I've seen Into Darkness.
Except he doesn't have gray elevated hair. But either way.
But, honestly, David Lynch is quality over quantity. And also, Mr. Cameron, you might have a little water under the brain, so quit it with the water movies. I think you got a little waterlogged.
We'll get to that when we get to more James Cameron for sure.
Yeah.
But either way, guys, we have lost a great. Anyone, and I noticed we had quite a bit of people in the lobby tonight. For that one person still watching, for all of you who popped in, appreciate it. Great that you were on. Sorry we did this late because again, woke up late and stuff this morning. But David, you'll be missed. I would have liked to meet you. It's a sad thing I didn't get to meet you, David Lynch. But you know what? I will remember you, and I will remember you for how you appeared. I'm glad I didn't get to know anything about you politically, somewhat personally, and even that, because a lot of that stuff, learning about all your favorite directors and what they could have done, which is also why I brought up Kubrick, it can sour you a little bit. You appreciate their work and what they've done. But again, this guy seemed to be a great guy. I will reach out to the family right now. I'm sorry for your guys' loss. I'm glad he lived what seemed to be a long, good life. 78 is a good year, not very young, not also that too old, but a good, solid life. And I'm glad he seemed to enjoy it. I'm glad he gave grandchildren, again, Jennifer Lynch, his grandson Dylan, everybody else. Just sorry for your guys' loss. May you guys, if you're also in the film, continue a legacy like his that was left behind. Do your own thing too and enjoy it. I mean, Jennifer Lynch, shout out to you. I know you helped with the Dahmer show. Some of those episodes you created and directed were great. And, just he'll be missed. So, David Lynch, RIP. We'll try to do this for you. Yep, go ahead if you want to.
My hats off to you, Mr. Lynch. May you rest comfortably in heaven with all the good, wonderful things that you gave us, and all the happy people who you left good memories to.
And to all the people you inspired, like me, because I'm actually writing in a similar vein, not trying to be exactly like Lynch, but I'm trying to pay homage and all these great things to him. because he's a guy, like I said in this video, he's inspired me probably even more. I thought no one would inspire me more than Steven Spielberg, but David Lynch, in my opinion, has surpassed Spielberg because there's just something about him that I've loved everything that he's done. I've not hated things. Spielberg's got a few stinkers in there, sadly. A couple other my favorite guys have got a few stinkers.
And also on a bit of a weird personal note, me and Mr. Warburton, along with Mr. Boku and Mr. Zombie JLT1, are kind of working on a bit of what's the term for like a role playing game, like a Dungeons and Dice style one that combines Dune with a little bit of Mass Effect, Star Trek, and I forget the last one, but and Aliens. Yeah, we're basically trying to create like a bit of a one of those like hybrid RPG games with like all of these friends. Don't worry, we're not going to monetize it or sell it or anything. It's just for like something for us and our friends.
But yeah, it's just fun.
But yeah, I mean, and also we kind of want to do a little bit of a Lynchian mystery with it because it's actually going to be kind of funny. Like Earth basically is just this planet everybody knows about but ignores until we accidentally fire up the Hadron Collider and hijack a mass relay signal, and then we've got everyone's attention.
Indeed. And like I said, all these things that we can do and just love. And I give him a tribute to a lot of it. Because again, in final saying, again, rest in peace, David Lynch. I didn't know you would influence me this much. I didn't even know you did Blue Velvet at the time. I remember hearing the name, and I always wondered, why does everybody attribute David Lynch to weird? I now know, but I love you for it, and I'm glad for the legacy and the stuff you left behind. And I believed you to be a very kind, great, loving man, loving person, and I'm glad you've had a family and left part of that behind as your legacy, and that people will remember you. And I'm hoping for generations to come, people will give your stuff a try and you'll be even more immortalized. Not that it should be forced, but as we've learned, people go into the past, see what's been done before, and look how it's been appreciated and grand understanding. So saying that, this is 012 Boku.
Why, yes, Boku. I would like some cherry pie and coffee. How did you know? And deuces.
Whatever you need, Gordon. Whatever you need.
We had to do it.
Gordon Jarek. But yeah, rest in peace, David Lynch. You'll be missed. Have a great night, guys.
Another wonderful stream.